Hello, welcome back to the show. It's always interesting to hang out with a history professor. They have wonderful, incredible insights on life. And we were just talking about, actually, with our producer, Chris, about his time in the Air Force and about some of the very powerful weapons he spent his time around. But you were saying, in a historical context, it's really incredible, the leaps in technology that have been made in the course of our lifetimes, but especially in the greatest generation.
Well, you go back. You could have been a child, let's say in 1850, and you really are closer to the year zero than you are to the 20th century. You could be.
What is the concept of year zero?
Jesus.
Okay, right.
Roman Empire.
Sure.
You could go back to the year zero and say, this looks familiar. There's wagons and there's pulleys and so on.
Animal energy being used to convey people.
You go just 60 years forward. You now have the telephone, the telegraph, you have the automobile, you have steamships, and the world is becoming much smaller. You could have been a child at Kitty Hawk and watched the Wright brothers take flight for 15 seconds, and then you could be a very old person and watch Neil Armstrong land on the moon.
Yeah.
That's how quick all of these things have happened. And it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and you and I are of the age to where we can absolutely remember. I remember my grandparents made an awesome investment, and they didn't buy Britannica, I don't think, but they bought the World Book of Facts. And so it came like once every 2 years. They were wonderfully bound, beautiful books. I don't think people really make books like that anymore. But they were full of color plates, and you could look up the Minnesota swerving thrush and read all about this bird. And that was my window into the world. And now, of course, in front of me, I have literally a window into the world.
The encyclopedias were our internet.
They absolutely were.
They really were. Really were.
And occasionally, because technology wasn't making the leaps that it's making now, I remember they would send out an addendum volume to include some things like the vacuum tube for television or whatever, that was a big change. And speaking of big changes, we were talking earlier about the changes, just to kind of recap, that you went through when you came back from your experiences in a hostile forward operating zone. That you didn't have points of reference with your people in your circle, because your buddy wants to go to the mall and look at girls, and you're like, well, malls have a lot of danger points. There's a lot of people that you're looking at a little differently. And the good thing is we have people at BC who speak that language. We're ready for you. And I say that to the veteran out there who may be in the morass that you were in for a while. What do I do? Right? We have people up there who speak your language.
We now have a dedicated veterans education advisor. This person only works with veterans and dependents to get them the student ed plans that they need, and to make sure they're going to align with their post 9/11, their Chapter 30, their voc rehab, to make sure that they get the right classes they need and they still get their benefits that they're entitled to as well. Sometimes there's a disconnect with the classes that somebody wants to take versus are they going to get their funding for that. And this person is in the Veterans Lounge, so everything's right there in close proximity. We have our VA certifying official, Linda Cordoba. She handles all the GI Bill, the actual paperwork that goes to the feds. Then you have myself. The Dean of Student Development and Success in one of the areas is Veteran Services.
Yeah, see, you have a friend in this guy. Like, he's been moving on up, okay? He's got some juice. Vets, remember, look into that camera. Look into it. That's that face right there. He's the guy that's going to help you. But all of these folks along the way, you're not going to be asked silly questions or anything, or things that might frustrate you. I know I've had veterans on in the past season who said it can be frustrating dealing with people who aren't speaking our language, so to speak, just to kind of succinctly wrap up that whole communications issue neatly.
There's a really good scene in a miniseries called The Pacific, done by HBO. I think Tom Hanks was in on it. And one of these young Marines, he goes back home after the war, and he's going to go to a college, and the person helping him says, well, what branch were you in? Well, I was in the Marines. Okay, well, what'd you do in the Marines? Well, I was a mortarman. That's the guy that drops the round in the tube and then it goes up. And she goes, well, do you have any skills? Well, I'm good with explosives. Do you have any typing skills? No. Do you have any skills over here, over there? And he's getting frustrated. So he finally leans in.
I feel frustrated for him right now. Like
it's a real poignant scene, and he finally leans in and says, "They taught me how to kill Japanese, and I got really good at it." And he got up and he walks away. That frustration. You don't get me. These are my experiences. Please don't discount them. Let me sit in the back of the class. I have to see everything. Please don't bother me if I get up and leave. I'm just feeling a little anxious. Please don't slam your books on the podium when you're lecturing. I'm going to absolutely jump.
Sure. Heightened awareness.
And these are just some of the smaller things. And then that's not even the educational part. I've been out of school for 6, 7, 8 years. The last time I took math class was my junior year. So now I've got to start all over and get that side down. But now I'm older, I'm married, I have a family, I have these other things I need to consider as well. And sometimes it gets to be a bit much. So they might be going from, okay, my class gets out at 2:25, I got to be to work at 3. Oh, and then I got to get home at 10 and do homework. And then I got to get up and do it all over again. And it can really be quite a bit for any student to take.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And it is, and we see that. And the only shame is in not taking advantage of all the resources available to you.
There's a tutoring center.
Yeah.
There's a math lab.
Right.
There's supplemental instruction. There's the health center that you've already paid into. There's all these great things. The teachers are great. They have office hours for you to come talk to. Hey, these are the situations that I'm going through. So, can we work something out on this or that? Push comes to shove, you go in the lounge and you just vent.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's important, and that's okay to do. Bleeding off a little bit of pressure from now and then is something that I think is a celebrated student tradition going way back. Some schools have traditions built around it, right, where you dress inappropriately at school or you bring boxes of donuts or what have you. So managing those feelings is very important, but so is staying involved. And we've got a lot of ways for you to do that on the BC campus, from Saturday football games to volleyball games to we have a fitness center, we have a swimming pool, we have free swim hours, so you can go take advantage of that. We have a planetarium, we have a fine dining restaurant on campus. We have 4 or 5 different clubs meeting this week on campus. There's a lot of ways to get plugged in, and obviously for student veterans, it should start at the Veterans Center on campus.
The Veterans Lounge is adjacent to the cafeteria. It's got a small window. It says Veterans Lounge. Actually, we have a really nice something or other up there now that actually says, "Hey, this is the Veteran Services."
You guys have coffee in there. Sometimes there's snacks, man. I mean, wishing I was a veteran.
That's some hard-earned coffee, let me tell you, brother.
Oh, I believe it. I absolutely believe it, and it's well-earned. But it's right there in Campus Center. It's really difficult to miss, and just getting back into or in with people who are speaking your language, from everything I've heard, is extremely helpful. And the bottom line is you're not alone. How many veterans do we have on campus right now?
We have, per semester, well over 200. So you take it per year, we have over 400. That's just who we can identify. That's not the ones that do not self-identify for a variety of reasons. They don't identify as veterans. Maybe they think, I don't have any more benefits, so why say I'm a veteran? That's important because you get priority registration as a veteran, whether you're getting the GI Bill or not, which means of the 20,000 students at BC, realistically, you're one of the first 1,000 or so that get to register.
And the value of that, I mean, it's like 10
goodness.
times better than a fast pass at Disneyland. You are going to get the classes that you need to reach your educational goals. And the thing is like if we were playing Family Feud and survey says number 1 reason you didn't graduate on time, couldn't get my classes. If you have priority registration, the chances of that happening plummet.
They drop. And that's one of the great things that the state of California has mandated. This isn't just a BC thing. This is the state. They will get priority registration, period. You have to still follow all the matriculation steps, but this is a fantastic perk that the state has been willing to do for the veterans. They feel behind. You get in there, you get these classes that you need, and when you're in impacted areas like nursing, oh man, I need that bio class. I need that chem class.
It's a career changer.
It really is, and it's really helpful to do that. So you're not taking underwater basket weaving at 4 o'clock on Fridays.
Yeah, absolutely. His name is Dean Beckworth, and he works in the SS building. But you can find him online, and you can also get hooked up with him by stopping by the Veterans Club on campus. It's a wonderful resource. You're going to be with people who speak your language, and most of all, you're going to hear tips. You're going to be hanging out with winners and people who are navigating the same puzzle you're in. And I've been in there before, and I've heard people say, oh, man, history of music. Oh, I got that book.
Yeah.
And like people like that book's probably been through 4 sets of hands. So anyway, you guys are doing great stuff. I'm glad that our veterans are getting the support they need to be successful. It's just another example of BC, changing with the times. I know that always wasn't the case, but the bottom line is it's improving now, and it's getting to a place where we want it to be, right?
It really is. We care about veterans. Our president, Sonia Christian, cares about veterans, and we were absolutely excited to have a great leader like her leading us.
I couldn't say it better. Thank you very much. Coming up next on the show, we are going to check in with Louis Amestoy. He's a vice president of several things here at the newspaper, but we're going to talk about some stuff that's happening on campus. It's pretty exciting, and that is going to be really fun to do. I can tell. We've got world-class soccer coming to Memorial Stadium, but that press conference is happening in about 2 hours, okay? But stick around. Don't go anywhere. We've got more Success and Equity on BCTV coming up next.